I'm Katherine Nwanorue, and this is SEO in 2025.
Katherine, what's your number one SEO tip for 2025?
So my number one SEO tip is to look beyond on-page optimizations and traditional KPIs.
So why is this important?
Okay, so lately, as many people might have noticed, the search engine results page has really been crazy. So I think it's likely in an attempt to tackle AI-generated content, but Google has made so many changes to their search engine results page in the past year. So we are seeing cases where we are seeing boosts in user-generated content and crowdsourced content. Many SEOs has also complained about this, where we are seeing Reddit pages outranking actual blog pages. And we're also seeing cases where a keyword actually triggers for TikTok videos and, of course, YouTube as well. And on the other hand, we also have Google's AI overviews, that's formerly SGE, which doesn't really show as often as it did before, but is still very much active. So considering all this, I don't really think it's a great idea or a great strategy to focus just on optimizations within a website, or even focusing on traditional KPIs like ranking and CTRs alone. I think as SEOs, we should really expand our focus to go beyond website optimizations or even backlinking, and to try as much as possible to understand how people now search for information beyond websites, of course.
Okay, so people are searching for information beyond websites, beyond traditional search engines as well. So do you see traditional search engines losing share moving forwards?
I wouldn't say they are going to lose that moving forward, but I think there's just going to be a bit of a switch up, because as I mentioned, people search for things on, let's say, TikTok, right? But TikTok is not, the TikTok platform itself is not the only way they find that information. So I had a recent case where a client was losing out on keywords, and I was looking into this. So it turns out that even though that keyword had actually decreased in Google search, but it was picking up on TikTok searches. So which means that even though the blog pages and blog posts were very great, you could actually see TikTok videos coming up. So I think it was around a keyword like copper wire gardening. And it made me think of the opportunities we had been losing out on this. So I think it's really important that SEOs, we should really collaborate with other teams like the social media team to try and optimize content for search as well.
Got you. Okay, so you're optimizing platform for search and other platforms. What about optimizing content for discovery on other platforms as well? Is that an SEO's job as well?
Yes, because I see it as information, the way people search for things has changed. And that means that the scope of search marketing has to change. So I'm not saying we have to create the content ourselves or tackle the social media interactions and look into that. No, but we can actually collaborate with other teams to point out, okay, these are keywords that we see that we are losing out on Google search, but they're actually picking up on TikTok search, like I mentioned. So there are tools that can help you with this. There is Glimpse. It allows you to actually compare keywords across different platforms.
Sorry, that was Glimpse you were saying?
Yes, Glimpse, that's the tool.
And do you know what the URL for that is?
GLIMPSE.com. I think that should be it. I mean, let's need to take a quick look.
I can't see glimpse.com, but we'll search for Glimpse to...
Okay. I think that's meetglimpse.com. That's the URL for that.
Okay, superb. Okay, that's good to check out there. I'm sorry, carry on what you were saying there.
So yes, you can definitely use that to compare keywords across different platforms. It could be Google search compared with TikTok or Pinterest or even Amazon website. So you could take that to the other team and point out parts that, oh, okay, the way people are searching for this information is changing. We are doing our part on the website, but I think you also need to optimize for this as well, right?
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the website, meetglimpse.com, and it says discover trends before they're trending. Where did they get their data from? How do you know that something's going to trend before it trends?
I don't know. I've not really used the trend part of it, but what the part I've used is just the keyword analysis and volume, but I'm yet to really check out the trend part of things.
Okay. Well, it's something to check out certainly as well. And
Definitely.
What about clients? Because some clients may be traditionally focused on SEO metrics such as search volume. So if you want to target something that doesn't have much search volume because you think it's going to be more popular in the future, how do you convince clients to try that opportunity?
Okay, so there are different ways to do this. My favorite way is if you, okay, let's say like you mentioned the search volume is really going down and clients are saying, oh, I don't think we need to do this. And after getting the data, like I mentioned, the glimpse data, and they're not still convinced, you could actually look for competitors doing this well. Nobody likes to be left behind. So my favorite way is creating a presentation of this is what competitors are doing, this is how it's really going well for them, and this is how we can tap into it. Chances are they're definitely going to tap into that because they're going to think about how much they're going to lose. And if you could also use tools like SEMrush, you could do a digital marketing digital market share analysis of your brand versus competitors. So once you start this strategy, you could check how much your brand has grown. So digital market share, it includes your keywords, your traffic, branded searches. It just takes a holistic view at all that, and you can actually see how you're growing versus your competitors. So if you can show them all this data and work on this, then they'll definitely tap in because the data does not lie. That is just the fact.
Okay. But if there's not that much data available and you're talking about something that's going to be trending in the future, how do you decide what to focus on? Because there's many different things that a brand could focus on.
Okay, sure. So, like I mentioned, you could, in this case, has to do with team collaboration, right? So on the SEO part of things, like you mentioned, you don't know how this is going, but you have an idea or you have a feeling that it's going to do well. You could tap into data from other parts. You could tap into questions people reach out to, how the industry is moving. So you could check how people are actually responding to similar content like this. Okay, so I don't know if I can give an example of how this can happen, but you could literally tap into data, recurring questions people have asked, the social media team, what are you saying? What type of content are people leveraging on? Are they leveraging into, okay, so we did a product text test and that is not going well, but we saw another competitor that did maybe a behind the scene type of content on how how their team actually package products or something like that. Or you saw another trend of something and you think that that is definitely going to go well. So you could work with the social media team and check on your own end if that actually aligns with what content people are going to be looking for and content that actually aligns with what your brand is trying to stand for, then you can double in on that.
Shouldn't SEO still be looking for visits to their website from search engines or from anywhere really? Or is it reasonable to have a goal as simply your content being consumed on another platform?
The goal is to have a holistic view. Like I mentioned, search marketing is evolving. We can't just continue to look at the website alone. It's not sustainable. So in this case, I definitely recommend for SEOs to look beyond the website. If you keep focusing on just the website and let's say blog post alone, like I mentioned, you're going to lose out on very important things. So the example I gave about the TikTok videos that are triggering for an actual keyword we used to rank for, if you create a blog post, you just don't stop there. You can optimize that, repurpose it for other formats and other platforms people are searching for. So you could turn a blog post into a video content rather than the generic social media copy the social media team does. You could also give them an advice on, oh, these are places we are being mentioned on online. You can search that for your brand mentions and give it to the appropriate team and they can handle that, tapping on conversations. You can also use that to really find out frustrations and objections of potential clients and do better. So it's just way more than the website. You have to really understand how people are now searching for content and try as much as possible to collaborate with other teams to optimize content for discovery.
So it sounds like SEOs should be called general digital marketers now because they're having to optimize in many different platforms.
No, not really. So people always say that if SEOs do other things, like it's as if they're basically going out of the scope of their work. So like I mentioned, it's not really about creating the actual asset itself. So my focus in this case is optimizing it for discovery. So it could be the keyword research, like I mentioned, trying to find out what is trending. Remember, they don't need to create the content. We don't need to create the content. We don't need to go and ask customers about what is happening or actually getting the user generated content ourselves. No, we can actually do the research part of things. That is where my point is coming from. The research part of things, find out how people are searching for things, the keywords they actually use for this. So you don't need to go to TikTok itself and search for TikTok keywords. There are actual SEO tools that can actually help you to find out how these things are performing across different platforms. Then you can give these keywords to other teams, the general marketing team, the social media team, to optimize for discovery. That is my point.
Optimize for discovery. I love that actually, because it's still organic discovery, isn't it? It's not talking about paid, or you're not suggesting that SEOs have anything to do with paid as well, are you?
No, no. I mean, the goal is to get our products and services in front of people organically, right? Especially for content that, as I mentioned, triggers on Google search results. So on Google search results, we are not just talking about the blog post. We are talking about video content. We are talking about literally anything that can literally rank on that page. It could be YouTube videos. It could be TikTok. It could be Reddit. Like I mentioned, it could be Reddit. So this goes beyond your actual domain, your actual website itself. So anything, any strategy you can actually give to other teams to optimize for all these channels and platforms is definitely a win.
So what does this planning strategic process looks like? Because it sounds like SEOs have to work with content professionals, with social professionals, just to agree what needs to be done and have everyone working in an aligned way. So do SEOs need to sit down once a quarter with these teams, once a month? And what does that planning process look like?
So basically, it depends on how the team is structured. Most teams work in silos where they make a decision and then one or two people from that team collaborates with others. But okay, so let's take, for instance, you're trying to optimize for Reddit search. So you found out that most of your queries are being taken over by Reddit pages. A process you could use is to, as an SEO, your part in the role is to use keyword research tools, SEO tools, to search for actual Reddit pages that are ranking well for these keywords. And once you locate these pages, you could make a list of specific keywords and these pages, and you could pass that over to the appropriate team. So you could give parameters for searching for. So you could say, if this content has been more than 6 months old, please don't comment on this. So you could pass that of keywords and the top ranking Reddit pages to this team, and then they can actually tap into conversations there. So they can provide answers. They can also help to help users to navigate things, basically be as helpful as you can. Or alternatively, you could also use Reddit as a social listening tool or as a brand listening tool. So you could find these pages and find out that your brand is being mentioned, and maybe your existing customers, they have frustrations, or your potential customers, they have objections. So you can pass it off to the content team and or to the social team and point out, oh, we can actually create content around these user experiences. We can actually create content that build brand trust and can actually help move our audience further down the channel. And that is the SEO part of things. As I mentioned, this does not have to do with you actually creating the content or going on these other platforms to optimize. No, you can do the best you can based on things that are actually ranking on the Google search results that are just not your website.
So what metrics are important to track success in 2025?
Okay, for this particular strategy, that's the tricky part of it. So when it comes to, let's say, TikTok or Reddit in this case, is a bit tricky to see a holistic view of the performance. Actually, you're going to be seeing partial performance. I think Sparktoro did a study on this, a research on this last year, where they found out that like up to 100% of traffic coming from most of the social media platforms are actually attributed to direct traffic. And that also includes link from Reddit posts. Let's say you make a comment on a Reddit post and you add a link there. The link is likely going to be misattributed to the direct traffic. So in this case, you might not have a direct way to measure this, but what I would definitely recommend is to look at KPIs such as increase in branded search. So if you're working with other teams to push content out there, chances are people are getting to know you, and that is going to translate to increase in branded search. Then for video-based content, most of these platforms have analytics where you can see a percentage of people coming from search or other channels. So you can work with the SEO team and they can give you this information, or you can check for how social interactions are increasing within a particular time. So once they give you this information, as an SEO, you can also check on your own end for the direct traffic and see if direct traffic increased within that specific timeline. Then you can also look at other KPIs like the market share I mentioned. So this gives you a more broader view of things. You're not just looking at keywords alone or traffic. You're looking at your brand searches, how well your domain has been growing over the months you did this strategy and stuff like that. Once you can compare this and check within a particular timeline and say there is an actual growth, you can definitely put a number of this and say, oh, this is how well we are performing. Then, of course, on the SEO side of things, for actual blog posts you've already created, you can also check in on leads and conversions, and definitely not just focus on click-through rates, because as I mentioned, there are so many factors that are going to be affecting that in the coming years.
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time doing what you suggest in 2025?
I wouldn't say to totally stop, but I would say take a step back on actually pushing for more content. So in most cases, most people have like a set number of content they have in a month, but I think I'd rather spend some of that time, of course, creating content, and then half of that actually trying to understand how people search, how people look for my content, how they find it, and how I can actually create content that actually builds trust. So in this case, it could be to repurpose existing customer reviews. It could be to repurpose existing content to digestible formats that people really want to see and stuff like that. So yeah, because as we have seen, one rags today can definitely be in the dust tomorrow. So just really optimize for search, really optimize for how people search for information, and really try to build your brand trust, because at the end of the day, if you can achieve that and people get to know your brand, then even if the SERPs change tomorrow, you're definitely going to maintain a significant portion of visibility.
Katherine Nwanorue is an SEO specialist, and you can find her over at techseojournal.com. Katherine, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2025.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2025, the book, over at SEOin2025.com.